One. We are now live. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to day 4 of EdTech in the Bend. We have Alex Milton just on the other side of the border from us. And just want to tell everybody that today's focus is the 4 C's. And she's got some great ways to do that. I can't wait to learn with her. My name is Seth Ponder, and I am part of the EdTech team here in South Bend. We are thankful that South Bend Community Schools has helped us put this together this week. And first, I want to start by introducing everyone that is watching and coming in, and we'll give some time for everybody kind of trickle in here on YouTube and Facebook. You can comment by introducing yourself and telling us where you are watching from. And Holly, to you.
Hi. Welcome once again to EdTech in the Bend. Good morning. This is the first time we're seeing you live. I'm part of the EdTech in the Bend team, and I'm here to introduce an honorary EdTech team member, Alex Milton. She's been with us through a lot of this. Alex works in Sturgis. She is the K-12 technology integration coach. So she works for the whole school corp, not just elementary, middle, or high. So good going, girl. Alex and myself met through gamification of our classrooms. The first time I met Alex, she was showing us about her Harry Potter classroom with the sorting hat and everything, and I was amazed. And so, shout out to Michael Matera and explore like a pirate.
Yeah, explore like a pirate. Hashtag out to him and our XPLAP PLN from Twitter. So once again, I'd like to introduce my friend Alex.
Hi, everybody. So I'm Alex Milton, and I'm very excited to get us rolling here. Should we wait a couple of minutes, Seth and Holly, just to get all those introductions in?
Looks like we're growing, and we can get everybody set up. Everybody's coming in. Again, you can watch on Facebook and YouTube and use that little chat box on the side. If you have any questions, feel free to ask questions, and we'll pop them up on the screen and Alex can answer them.
Perfect. All right. So I am going to go ahead and start sharing my screen while we are still getting some people in and ready to go. Oops, am I a little echoey? Oh, perfect. We're good now. All right. Oops, it'd help if my presentation wasn't closed. Okay. So today is going to be a super fun session. I am very excited here. We're going to be doing a deep dive into one specific tool. It's going to be Peardeck's Flashcard Factory. So I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with Peardeck. For those of you that are not, it's very similar to Nearpod in the sense that students can see your screen, and as you flip through your slides, it flips on their screen as well, and there's interactive activities. But the Flashcard Factory is a little bit different, so we're going to do a deep dive here in just a moment. If you are interested in the slide deck that I have created, I have a bit.ly up here in the upper right-hand corner. So it's bit.ly/flashpair if you are interested in checking that out. Just so you know, there's not going to be a whole lot in the slide deck itself, mostly some pictures that I'll be talking through. The reason why is because in a little bit, I am going to be switching us over to the Peardeck Flashcard Factory itself. And as an audience, we are going to be creating our own Peardeck Flashcard Factory set. And we're going to be then playing that set on Gimkit. So it's going to be super fun. So as Holly said, I am Alex Milton. I'm a K-12 technology integration coach, and I'm the only one in my district. So I service about 200 teachers and over 3,000 students. So there's a lot. So I'm really thankful that I had the opportunity to kind of brainstorm some ideas off the Ed Bend and the tech team, just because they had some great words of wisdom for how they were doing some of their PD during this crazy time. Before I get rolling too much, I am a big proponent of free things, and I would love to be able to give free things to all of you. So if you'd like to play around and win a free year of the regular Peardeck, the premium version, here is what you need to do. All you need to do is go on Twitter and tweet a takeaway from this session. So it could be a screenshot of something that resonated with you. It could be a screenshot of the flashcard that you're going to make here in a little bit. It could be just a sentence of kind of something that you want to do with Peardeck's Flashcard Factory in your own classroom in the future, whatever that may be. The only rules are that you need to tag myself at AlexMilton6 and the EdTech in the Bend hashtag, which is ETITB20. So just so you know, the Flashcard Factory itself is free. So everything I am going to show you today, you don't need the premium version of Peardeck to use. But if you would like some other cool features of Peardeck, like some drawing tools, draggable activities, even some feedback, student feedback is in beta right now. It's really neat. Definitely you could do that. All right, but let's roll into our objectives. So first off, why should we be using Flashcard Factory? How does that connect to the 4 C's? Because if we don't know the why, right, if we don't have a purpose, there's really no point. We're going to spend the majority of our time doing a demo, and that's going to be super fun. And as I mentioned, Peardeck's Flashcard Factory has an integration with Gimkit. So we're going to be using that integration, so you'll be able to try that out as well. So I have a question for you all in the chat. And if you notice me kind of turning my head over here to the right, I'm kind of checking out your chat, and I'm sure Seth is going to be popping up some of your answers as well. How familiar are you with Flashcard Factory? So kind of rate yourself 1 to 5. So if you've never heard of it, you'd probably be near a 1. If maybe you used it before, maybe a 2 or 3. If you've used it a lot, maybe a 4. Or if you're an expert and you could lead this PD for me, you would label yourself a 5. So go ahead and rate yourself. Looks like we have a wide range here. I'm seeing a lot of 1s. Maybe a 0, that's fair. Yeah, some of you may have never heard of the Flashcard Factory, even if you are familiar with Peardeck. Honestly, I learned about this tool just within the last year because one of my 6th grade ELA teachers was using it. And I was like, what are you talking about, Flashcard Factory? What is that? I feel like it's Peardeck's best kept secret. So it looks like a majority of us are 1s. I am seeing some 2s, 3s, 4s. Okay, great. Heard of it, but never used it, John Patrick says. Okay, so that's helpful. So that shows me where I need to go with today's session. Perfect. So first off, what is Peardeck vocabulary, right? So I am going to make a connection here to the 4 C's. I'm going to really quickly walk you through just the basics of what it is. Using the 4 C's as kind of my guiding focus. And then, as I mentioned, you are going to experience it for yourself. All right. So there is a lot of collaboration with the Flashcard Factory. So, and you'll see this in just a bit, you will be able to join by going to joinpd.com and then whatever the code is, and then it's automatically going to put you in a group with one other person. So it is split like it's supposed to be kind of a factory. You'll notice that's the theme. So it's split into day shift group and night shift group. So that just means you're in a competition with the other half of everyone else in this PD. Or if we were using it in the classroom, half the class would be in competition with the other half of the class. So it just adds in a kind of a different dynamic to get other students motivated if they are motivated by competition. So if we were using this in the classroom or in a smaller session, if we were in person, you'd be able to sit by your partner and kind of brainstorm and collaborate together. If we were in a smaller session, you'd be able to probably find that person. Or if we were in Zoom, you could go in a breakout room with that person. Since we are in a larger group, our collaboration, that's probably going to be the weakest modeling I'm going to do with the Peardeck Factory today. But you'll see that there are a lot of ways that it could be used. Next up, there are so much critical thinking that we see with the Flashcard Factory as well. So there are two parts to your job, and you get to alternate between the two. The first one, which is what you see on this screen, is where you write an example or a definition, depending on what the teacher's expectations are, of a specific vocabulary word. So this one, the vocabulary word is cell membrane. So the definition was given, and you can see that on the left-hand side. So the student needs to use their critical thinking skills in order to figure out how can I best give an example of what a cell membrane is. So you can see an example of that on the white text here on the right-hand side. So this person said, a cell membrane is just like a castle wall, and they explain how. So that obviously takes a lot of critical thinking skills to go beyond just a simple regurgitation of a definition and be able to say, well, here's an analogy of what it could be like that's connected to something I'm more familiar with. So I mentioned there are two halves. So we saw the written portion. The second portion that you will be able to do is a drawing. So in this case, the prompt was Egypt. Egypt was the vocabulary word. One of the partners did the written portion on the right-hand side, and the other partner was in charge of the drawing. So they drew their best picture representation of Egypt. So this, of course, is just oodles of creativity where you have to show your best representation. And as you can see, going back to critical thinking, it's a way to show what you know in a different way. So using drawing instead of just using text. All right. And then once a certain amount of time has passed that's set by the teacher in the classroom, then it all comes together. So this step is called quality control. So what's going to happen is as a class, we would look through all of the different flashcards that the teams put together. So we could see this pair created a really funny picture about the nuclear membrane, and they had some good text by it. So we would determine by clicking either the X or the green check over there, is this worthy of being in our flashcard deck? Is this something we want to be able to learn from and practice from as we experience the flashcard in Gimkit? So this is where a lot of communication comes in, because depending on how you want to set this up, this could be like a debate where you say, what are the merits of this particular card? What does it show? How could this be useful when we're trying to remember what the nuclear membrane is like? So on and so forth. So this will be a little bit different depending on if you're using this particular tool in person or remote. In person, obviously, kids can just talk in small groups, raise their hand, volunteer, talk it out in person. If you're doing this remotely and you're doing it, say, in a platform like Zoom or Google Meets, if you're using the Nod add-on, students could virtually raise their hand to vote on which one they like. And keep in mind that more than one card can be admitted into the deck. And you'll see that in a little bit too. All right, I think that is enough of me talking about it. If that was, once again, just really quick, because I want us to actually go in and play Flashcard Factory. So if you have any questions or just kind of thoughts for what you have seen so far, feel free to put it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm actually going to switch tabs and go over to Peardeck itself at this time. Okay. So I'll keep an eye on the chat to see if we have any comments, and I will pause if I need to. But otherwise, let me show you on the teacher side how you would set this up, and then you're going to see it for yourself as a student. So how this would work is I would just go to peardeck.com, and I'm already on the page, so I'm just going to leave that alone. I've already signed in, and you'll notice that I have the option to, at this page, create a lesson if I wanted to use the Google Slide add-on for Peardeck. I know when I usually create a Google Slide add-on, or when I usually create a Google Slide presentation with Peardeck, I don't go to this page at all. I just use the add-on. But this is the page where you're going to go if you need to do the vocabulary game, which is the Flashcard Factory. Oh, it looks like I have a question, so I'm going to pause real quick. What do the numbers mean? Can you tell me more about what numbers you are referring to? I'm not sure.
I'm guessing that person is looking at the numbers in the chat on how well, the question earlier was how well do you, or how familiar are you with Peardeck? And so people were saying 1 is not very familiar and 5 is I could teach it today.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Seth. Okay. So to access Flashcard Factory, you're just going to click this little green button. So this is what I meant when I said that it's a really well-kept secret, just because it's very unassuming, just a green box. It doesn't look super exciting, but it is. So let me give that a click. Okay. So for those of you that are familiar with Quizlet, this screen looks pretty self-explanatory, pretty familiar, right? There are a couple different ways as on the teacher perspective that you can do this. So the first one, and this is what I'd recommend if you're first using this with your class, is a bit of front loading. So you would actually have this prepared ahead of time before doing this with students. So what I mean by that is you would have a list of terms that you are going to be using with your students. So I'm just going to type in random words that don't make sense, right? These are probably not things you'd see on a vocabulary question, but that's okay. You'll notice where it says definition, there is a little blue section that says definitions. If I were to click it, you notice that it says powered by Merriam-Webster. This means it's actually pulling direct definitions from that dictionary. So you'll notice that some of these are even use the word in the sentence, which isn't great, or some of them, depending on your age level, are probably a little bit too much. So you might want to tweak it depending on the group of students that you have, or if you have a definition that you think is just going to make more sense, is more kid-friendly, definitely you could do that. How we are going to use this today, though, is the complete opposite of my initial recommendation for first using it with students. I did not front load any vocabulary words, and the reason why is because I'm going to have you create some words for me. So how you could use this technique in the classroom is, let's say it's the end of a unit or maybe the end of a year and a semester, whatever the case may be, and you want to review words students are already familiar with. You could kind of poll the class. What are some words that were tricky for you that you feel like we should review in this Flashcard Factory? So you could pull them and you could actually put the terms in real time. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that here with you all in just a moment. And then you can carry on. So both methods make a lot of sense, but it just depends how often you've used the Flashcard Factory and all of that. So let me see. We have another question from Carrie here. Can we change the dictionary to a French dictionary? That is a great question. I don't think I have an answer to that, because all I saw was just clicking on, I guess I have to type in a word here again. It just automatically turned it to English. So, and I don't see a spot for settings where I can change that. So I'm not 100% sure on that, but that'd be really something interesting to take a look at and see if you'd be able to turn it into a world language for sure. Okay, let me go back here, because before I go any further, you all need to do some work for me. So when I was thinking about what type of words do I want to do, I thought I want to do something that is a little bit fun and a little bit interesting. So in the chat, I would like you to start brainstorming either some words or phrases that would be most common in 2020, like the word mask, coronavirus, whatever, or some educational jargon like differentiation, IEP, something that a non-teacher would have no idea what you're talking about. And these are going to be our vocabulary words for our Peardeck. So I'll give you all a moment, and then I'll take a look at what you got, and I'll start importing them here. Looks like we have another question from Kiko Duff. Can you use this for chemical or mathematical formulas? I would say for sure. I don't see a direct add-on where it's automatically going to add in math symbols and things like that, but there are definitely extensions that could do that for you. So I think that would be a perfect integration for sure. Oh, we got some words. Let me start typing here. I see flipped classroom. I see synchronous, asynchronous, Erica says, is this available to be verbal? I know that the regular Peardeck is having some integrations with Immersive Reader. I have not seen that yet with Flashcard Factory, but maybe that would be something in the future. I am not sure. I see quarantine, isolation, I see pandemic, let's get a few more words. I would like at least 10 words, so keep them coming. Sanitizer. Anxiety, that'll be a fun one to draw. Participation. And then equity was one I missed back there. Okay, we got our 10. Perfect. So at this stage, what I could do, and what probably would make sense if you're front loading all of the definitions ahead of time, is add in the definitions. However, I am purposely going to leave those blank, and I'll explain why I'm doing that here in a little bit. Before I click play on the Flashcard Factory, I'm going to give you a little bit more directions. So when we are in the Flashcard Factory, when you are creating your flashcard words, it gives you it usually has a prompt that says something like, give an example of this word. So in this case, it would be give an example of flipped classroom. I'm actually going to flip the script a little bit, and I'm going to say instead, please give me a definition of, in this case, flipped classroom. To put an added twist, because I think we all need a little more fun in our lives right now with everything that is happening, there are two ways you could do this. One is the serious way, and you could do this if you want. You could give a true definition in your own words of what that word or phrase means to you. That's totally fine. You can do that. What I think would be more fun, and what I'm hoping some people will do, is option 2, where you create a definition that is technically true, but also a little silly, a little sassy, something that is kind of going to make us chuckle when we see it. And you can do a mix of both, because you will be able to do more than one flashcard here once we get to that phase. Okay. So all I did so far is I clicked play. You'll notice I received an error message. It's saying, hold on, you're missing definitions. So I'm the type of person where I say, okay, thank you so much. I'm going to start the game anyway. So that is the button I am clicking. All right. Yes, I see it on the projector. All right. So I'm going to turn it back over to you all for a second. You all have another job to do. You can either open another tab, or if you have a smartphone, it works perfectly well on there as well. What I need you to do is go to joinpd.com. It's going to ask you for a code, and that is this text in green down here. The code will be AKXOU, acidic kangaroos, X-ray, orange umbrellas. Makes sense. So I'm going to give you some time to go to Join PD, and that will help us get rolling here. And while we're paused, if there are any comments or questions that we have so far, feel free to stick that in the chat. Okay, looks like we have 25 people in so far. I'm just going to give us about 1 more minute, but just as a heads up, the nice thing about Peardeck is if you don't get in at this first window, you can still join at any time. So I'm going to give you all kind of a tip and a quick tip for those that are doing remote learning, how you could use this process and have students sign up as individuals. So here's what I mean by that. Let's say that you want to do this as an asynchronous activity, which was one of our vocab words, apparently. That's going to be on our list here. You'll notice that collaboration would be a problem because I can't expect all students to be logged in at the same time and use this code, right? So if you do want to use this asynchronously, you would do all of the steps that I have done thus far, but you would not wait for any workers like I am doing right now. You would actually just click clock in. What that would do is force any person who then later joins and uses this code like you guys are doing right now, it would force them to work by themselves, which is what you would want to happen since they are working independently. Let's see, should our screen say letter from the foreman? Yes, it should. It will remain that way until I click that we are clocked in. Okay, so we got about 36 players. If there's anyone struggling to get in, let me know in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just going to give 30 seconds. I think we're good. Okay, so we are clocked in. So as you can see, we have a list of day shift group and night shift group. So I'm really quickly going to scroll down so you can find your partner. And this is what I meant when I said it gets a little tricky when we're in kind of a large group like this and we don't have breakout rooms, that sort of thing, to be able to find that person and work with them. Because how it will work is each time one of you will have half of the job, one of you will be writing, one of you will be doing a picture, and then for the next flashcard, it's going to swap. If you were doing this in person or in breakout rooms, you would be able to talk to that person and say, here's what I'm going to draw, and let's make sure that matches what we are going to put in the text. So since we are kind of at a disadvantage here, if you want to type in the chat and say, hey, Paula, here is what I'm going to be drawing, just so you know, and try to have it match, you can. Otherwise, I think it's just going to be kind of lighthearted and fun, and it might be kind of funny if they don't match. So it's not a big deal. All right, and once again, for anyone that has not joined, you'll notice the join PD code is at the bottom left-hand corner, so you can still join at any time. From the teacher perspective, you'll notice I have the ability to shuffle teams. I'm not going to click that button though, since you already know who you're going to be with. And otherwise, all we need to do is select Let's Play. Here we go. So on your screen now, you should have the option of either doing a written portion or a drawing. Remember, it's going to ask for an example. I would prefer if you give me a definition. That definition can be serious or it can be silly, your choice. On this screen, you'll notice that flashcards are going to be coming in as you all do it. But otherwise, I'm just going to give you around 10 to 15 minutes or so, however long it takes us to get all 10 terms. And I'm going to give us a little background music while we do it. sorry, I'm going to pause for a second. I see Sandy has a question. I lost internet. What are we doing? So Sandy, you are going to go to the Flashcard Factory. So it's joinpd.com with the code AX. I'll put it up here. AKXOU. Let me start that music again. And then yes to Carrie's question. Yeah, you just kind of, it can be a real definition, but it'd be kind of sassy if you want it. And then for Deanna's question, if you don't know, say what a flipped classroom is, make something up. It will be really funny. So it's all good. We have 5 minutes remaining. like we have a question from Mary. If you were kicked out, try closing out of that Peardeck tab, reopening it, and just retyping in joinpd.com and putting in that code again. And for everyone else, we have about 3 minutes left. For Sandra's question, the code is down here in the lower left-hand portion of the screen. It's AKXOU. For Kim's question, if I ship it, my partner is still working on it, will that cause my partner to not be able to continue? I would assume so. I guess I have not tried that out, but I would assume it would just send it as is. And if one half was not done, it might be blank. It will show you when both sides are complete. So you can wait for both sides and then hit continue. Oh, that's interesting. John Patrick says the screen keeps changing as he's in the middle of entering something. I'm wondering if your partner, oh, yep. Your partner says that I'm slowing down now that I know. Gotcha. Yeah, so this is what I meant when I said collaboration is going to be a little tricky the way we have things set up, just because you can't talk to your partner. So you don't have the ability to say, hey, are you done? Or what should I do for my half? That sort of thing. All right. We are down to the final 30 seconds. So if you are still working on your flashcard, finish up which one you are doing. Okay, so our time is up. I'm going to give us a 10-second grace period here to finish up whichever one you're last working on. And then either you or your partner hit the button, just send it away. Let's see. While we're finishing up here, let's just see any comments and questions about this experience thus far. It looks like the biggest theme is just, as I mentioned, the issue with communication when you're not by your partner and can communicate with them. Let's see. Yeah, internet issues, that can definitely be a deficit as well. Marianne says, love this, but it's sensitive, so I lost the opportunity to finish one. Right, so that's where it gets a little tricky. So I would say, if possible, as with probably a lot of these different tech tools, it's probably easiest if you show the students what it looks like if you have the ability to start in the classroom before trying it remotely. But obviously it is what it is this year. So we'll just treat everything like a learning curve, right? Because obviously I've never done it this way without having students have the ability to go in a breakout room. So just treat it like this is our practice round, right? So it's all good. But yeah, like Kiko says, I can see how kids would have fun with this. Oh yeah, and I think it's even going to up the ante once we get into Gimkit. All right, so that our grace period is over. I'm going to move into quality control. It's going to let me click the button. We'll see. Appears I'm a little frozen too. Yeah, it's a great way to practice vocabulary. It's definitely like Pictionary. Let's see, I might have to refresh my screen here and see if it will let me. Okay, give me 1 second, please. Oh, I don't want to accidentally delete all our hard work though. Okay. Give me 1 moment. I'm going to see if I can get it working on my other computer. Otherwise, I'm just going to try hit and refresh on this screen. Okay, I think we're just going to hit refresh and hope for the best, right? There we go. Nice. We are back. Let me see. It looks like I have a question. Are the 2 numbers at the top the total number of submissions thus far? Yes, sorry, I switched the screen before I could answer that. There were, as you know, I created 10 different vocabulary words based on your suggestions. So it showed how many of those vocabulary words were completed. So that being said, as you can see, a lot of people have done flipped classroom, for example. So there are a lot of exemplars, but that's a way as a teacher to kind of keep track logistically of how long to give students to see if there's any vocabulary words that have not been completed yet. And then for Rose's question, was the music in Peardeck for you, or do you provided that? I actually just went on YouTube and found a Marvel instrumental playlist. So that was not in Peardeck. That was something extra. Okay, so we are at the quality control phrase. And as you saw kind of in my quick example at the start, this is where we can see what the drawing is, what the word is. What I want you to notice is at the very bottom of my screen, you'll notice there is this gray bar, and then it has the vocabulary word flipped classroom. So as a teacher, you can see how many vocabulary words, and I'll kind of flip through them here, were created based on just that one vocabulary word of flipped classroom. So as you can see, we have a lot going on. And then once I get to a new section, so it looks like I'm almost there, it has kind of a little small lines kind of going up. So you can see we're in a different category. So now these are all the ones for synchronous. All right. So I'm going to do it a little bit differently than I would if I was doing this with students. So as I mentioned, this would be the great spot for some communication where you can argue, is this the best definition? Is this the best picture to identify that image? But just for the sake of this activity, I'm just going to go ahead and randomly select some. And I'll kind of scroll through here so you can see what some of your drawings are. So as you can see, I can select more than one vocab word at a time. So I'm just going to try to go through until I select one from one from each category. Okay, so I'm just going to use my finger here and slide through the rest instead of going one by one. Here we go. I think we are almost to the end. Okay, perfect. So now we are going to move on to shipping. So as you can see, all our lovely vocabulary words are at the top. If we were doing this as a class competition, you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner, it says 12 points versus 8 points. So what that means is, let's say I accepted a word that was created by someone from the day shift. You notice it has kind of an orange little line down below it. And if it was from night shift, it would be a blue one. So if it was kind of a competition, maybe day shift would try to get more points than night. But now that we are done with this list, I'm going to click Export to Gimkit. I'm going to title it and export. So now it says Gimkit link, and now there's a quick little button I could share to Google Classroom if I so desire. And then there's a link, and I'm going to click Go to Set here in a second. But I see I do have a question from Leslie. So the teacher picks the best option, not the student. Great question. I would say I did not do best practice on this. So what I would do is, as a teacher, I would facilitate the discussion for what words they liked, because as you saw, there was like 20 words or 20 flashcards for each word, just because there's a lot of us in here. Normally there would be less than that, so it'd be a little easier to go through. And then as a class, you'd be able to decide which one you like. But the final decider, the one who gets to click the magic button, is going to be the teacher, just so otherwise I can see kids deciding, yeah, that's a good one, for only the ones that they made. This way is just kind of one person, the teacher, clicking the button. Ooh, Paula has a great question. What is Gimkit? I'm so glad that you asked that. So Gimkit, if you've never used it, it's similar to other gamification tools like quizzes, Quizlets, Live a little bit. It's very similar to Kahoot, quizzes, that sort of thing. The main difference, which you will see, I'm going to click Go to Set, is that you can have power-ups. So students really, really like that, especially at the middle school level, because they can mess with their opponents, and some power-ups are good or some can be hurtful to others, that sort of thing. So Sandy says, how much is Gimkit? I saw it wasn't free. When I went on Gimkit recently, I saw that they just changed what is under the free plan. How it used to be was that you could have 5 free kits, is what they call their sets. And then you could just delete the ones once you were done and basically have unlimited sets, but only 5 saved at a time. Now they have changed it where you can have unlimited everything, but only 5 students can play at a time. So if you're doing this with a small group, maybe that's not a big deal. But if you do have the free version, I would personally recommend, there's an export button on the left-hand side, and you can take everything that you all made and copy it to, say, Quizlet or someplace else that would be a little better. For how much it costs, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I took Gimkit to my tech director, and he said that it was, quote unquote, pretty cheap. So I don't know what that means, but if you're interested, I'd recommend trying out just the free version and see if it's worth it. If not, you can always use this export button. All right, so I'm going to go over to the questions and answers real quick, just so you can preview what this is going to look like. I'll just show you one. As you'll see, once it gives you a question, it's going to give you whatever definition you all made is going to be at the top. And it's also going to provide that image that whoever made that drawing created as well. Down below, since we had 10 different vocab words, it pulled in 3 wrong answers and the correct answer. So when we play it, you'll just choose whichever one is correct. let me see. I'm going to go ahead and click play at this time. So as you can see, it's similar stylized way to Kahoot, where I can choose, are we working together or as a team? The main difference is in terms of goals. I can set how long I want us to play or what our ultimate goal is, that sort of thing. So let's go for 4 minutes. That sounds pretty good. Starting cash. So this is a change. So I mentioned that there were power-ups. You actually have to buy those to earn cash. You have to get correct answers. So just since we're playing around with it, I'm going to give you guys a lot of cash. I will leave all these features on. You can check your answers. There will be music this time. It's not coming from me. It'll be from your computer. So I'll leave that on. Definitely am keeping the power-ups, and I am not turning on this one, which says clean power-ups only. So that means there will be some power-ups that could hurt other players. So that could be pretty fun. So let me hit continue. And I'm going to turn it to you guys where you need to enter another code for me. So it's going to be gimkit.com/play, and your code is going to be 80346. Thank you, Holly. Looks like Gimkit is around $60 a year or $5 a month. It would be, it would not be the participant that pays. It would be whoever sets it up. So it would be the teacher. From what my tech director told me, he said there was not a school license. So he just bought it, bought enough for, I don't remember what the one lower down, it wasn't individual, but whatever, I think it was building wide is what it was. He just bought the building wide, and everyone in our district is using that. So he said it was decently cheap for a tool like this. You'll probably notice there's a blue button here that says add remote communication. I'm not going to do this, but I just learned about this yesterday. It looks like it's a new feature for Gimkit. For those of you that had to do Kahoots or quizzes when we were distance learning, you know, it was kind of a pain, especially for younger kids, to have two screens open at the same time. So what they've done is if you have, say, a YouTube live stream or a Zoom, you can add in that information, like what's the link to the live screen, and then it can integrate that live stream and the Kahoot all in one screen, so they don't have to toggle back and forth. It's all in one spot, which is really nice. All right, we'll say another 30 seconds or so for us to get in. And if you get kicked out, you just go through the same process where you go to gimkit.com/play and enter the code. You'll probably notice, by the way, if you haven't already, there's a spot where you can draw while you are waiting for me to hit start game. So that's kind of fun. Okay, I don't see any more joiners here, so I'm going to assume we're good. And let's play. All right, here's our leaderboards. Looks like Seth took it. It looks like he's been using it in his classroom, so probably had a little bit of an advantage. Came in for that celebratory fist pump, right? All right. So as you can see, this connects really well with the Edu protocol, the Fast and the Curious, because even though the Flashcard Factory took a little bit of time, once we got there, you created your own set. And this, as you can see up here, we can play it again and again and again. You can do the same set every day and think of the ownership that students have over this list. This wasn't something that I created in advance. You all did everything from the words to the definitions to the examples, right? So that's so much student ownership. Okay, so we are almost out of time here. So I'm just going to close it with a final thought for you all to put in the chat. So how do you see yourself if you feel like this was a useful tool? How could you use Flashcard Factory in your own classroom? How could you spice it up for your age group? Or how could you do this so it's a little bit different every single time? Something that stuck with me from John Crippo's Edu Protocols chat on Monday was that even if you're using the same tool, like for the example, the Fast and the Curious using Flashcard Factory, even if you're using that every week, how can you change it just a little bit to keep it interesting for kids? Oh, thank you, Carrie. Yes, I love interactive PD too. And I saw Holly back there said Gimkit was developed by a teenager. Yes, he actually created it because he was tired of all the Kahoot games, because back when all that first started, Kahoot was pretty much it. Now we have a lot of options, right? He's a 19-year-old. He's a 19-year-old now, and I think his company is only 3 people. So it's fantastic what they have done. And yes, as Courtney says, it's a fun way to mix it up, right? So you don't have to do this every week if you're doing Fast and the Curious. There's, like I mentioned, so many other tools that you could use, but it's just a different way to do it. Carrie said, fantastic and fun for second language learners. Paula said, fun way to learn difficult rhetorical terms. Definitely. Beth, I use it for our reading story vocabulary words each week. The kids love playing the factory. That is awesome. I agree, Kiko. This would be awesome for a review game, especially if you kind of set it up how I did, where the kids create the ownership and review the words they feel like they need to learn.
I just have to say, I was like, what? The hour's up? I want to play more. I want to stuck on again.
Say the same thing.
Right?
Like, Gimkit is so much fun. And my students, I start Fridays. We're like, all right, it's figured out Friday. Let's start with Gimkit. And I'm like, all right, let's do 10 minutes. And they're like, no, let's get more time. And so it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, because kids just want to play again and again, right?
Right, because maybe next time I beat Seth. You know, there's always that possibility.
You got to use that money. You got to shop. You got to spend money to make money.
I know.
Exactly.
No problem.
So
This was great, Alex. I loved the interaction. I loved it from the drawing and then using, learning how to mash up Peardeck with Gimkit. Excellent.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. This was a lot of fun.
We always love having you. Honorary EdTech member here.
yeah, thank you so much. Just want to remind everybody that to get PGPs, there is a link down below in the descriptions. There's also, it's scrolling across the bottom. And it's in the email link. As long as you have registered for EdTech in the Bend, we're sending out daily emails this week. What's the one other thing I wanted to punch out? Oh yeah, this right here.
This real quick. Just a reminder that you can win free Peardeck Premium. So remember, the factory itself is free, but if you want the regular Peardeck, let me bring that slide back up here. I don't think it's shared. Let me go again. All you need to do is share some sort of takeaway. So that could be a screenshot of maybe the flashcard you did, anything fun that you liked, and then just tag myself and EdTech in the Bend 20.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. It's time for lunch. Also, want to remind everybody that you can use the chat feature if you're watching live. If you're not watching these live, you can still comment, and one of us will get back to you at some point. But if you're watching this live, we can comment right away. So,
yep. So
thanks for watching, and thank you, Alex. You got one more thing?
Oh, no, I was just going to say next up is Eric Kurtz. So make sure to come back after lunch.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.